finally, Assassin's Creed Shadows on the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm going to play this. I've checked out Star Wars Outlaws on the Switch 2, and I beat Star Wars Outlaws on my Xbox, but I checked that out on the Switch 2. I was impressed at how that game ran in handheld mode on a much less powerful device. Ubisoft has done a great job with their optimization. I'm even more interested on how Shadows is going to run because it's an absolutely beautiful game. And now we're getting a little bit of information here on exactly how we can expect this on the Switch 2. It should be running at 30 FPS with NVIDIA DLSS and baked global illumination. All of this, we will those all it all sounds like, yes, that makes sense for the Switch 2, but how is this going to run once we have it in our hands? I'll probably do a video or some sort on that because I'm interested in just how these big AAA games get optimized down for the Switch 2, especially in the handheld mode. But they say here that the game's engine, the latest version of Anvil, featured many big improvements, ushering the franchise into the next generation with technologies, like a bunch of stuff that they added in. And if you've played Shadows, one of the first things that stood out for me is I thought this was really the first next generation Assassin's Creed in the way that it did look graphically and the physics of the game, comparatively to something like Valhalla, which released at the beginning of the generation. Shadows was definitely a next gen one, even much more so than Mirage, which was great, but still kind of felt like it was in the last gen a little bit. And Shadows improved on a bunch of stuff. But they say here that the Switch 2 platform, however, is far less powerful than the platforms on which the game was first released. And according to Ubisoft's project lead programmer, Bruno, the developers had to fundamentally redesign how the world is rendered, and even how the game systems of Assassin's Creed interact with each other. And the core simulation systems like clouds and cloth are preserved, but heavily optimized and sometimes downscaled to lower GPU load. With global illumination uses, the baked solution already employed on low spec PC and Xbox Series S to save RAM. You have to admit now at this point, although a lot of people hate on the Series S and say it held back the generation, I bet you the Series S has helped developers greatly with handheld optimized games and with the Nintendo Switch 2, as we do see that here, that they're looking at what they did with the Series S and delivering that on the Nintendo Switch 2. And they say here, they're rather than relying on the console's hardware ray tracing support to deliver the ray traced global illumination. And beyond that, Ubisoft has extensively tuned down every parameter: LOD, draw distances, texture resolutions, and object streaming per scenario, reducing NPC counts only where necessary in dense hubs to uphold performance. And they say that the lower frame rate limit for VRR is typically 40 FPS, but Assassin's Creed Shadows runs at 30 FPS on the Nintendo Switch 2, saying we didn't want to compromise on that aspect, and so we built a dedicated algorithm that keeps VRR enabled even at 30 FPS, keeping the game as fluid and responsive as possible. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. 30 FPS is what I expected for the Switch 2. I have a feeling, based off of Star Wars Outlaws, which was very impressive to me, running on that device, that the same thing will be here with Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I will absolutely be checking that out.